will take the Undersecretary of Justice, then will take the police, and then will take the Bureau of Corrections and PIDEA.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Just a minor correction, Mr. Chairman. I'm not an undersecretary. I'm just a senior deputy state prosecutor of the Department of Justice, sir.
All right, and of course you were properly told by the Secretary Aguirre to represent him.
Yes, Mr. Chairman.
Well, I hope that you can represent him well then.
Yes, Mr.
The Department of Justice, rather.
Yes, I will try my level best, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you.
Well, as far as the Department of Justice is concerned, while no position paper has yet been submitted to this committee, taking the cue from the position that was adopted by the department insofar as the hearings conducted by the House of Representatives, it is the position of the department, and we would like to reiterate the support to the proposed bills on the restoration of death penalty for heinous crimes, and that this department does not interpose any constitutional or legal objections thereto. Now, we would just like to raise some few minor points, Mr. Chairman, if I may. That it is a deterrent is not an essential requisite for the reimposition of the death penalty. Rather, what was mentioned by the Honorable Senator Pacquiao, that there be compelling reasons for the reimposition that be considered. And we believe, Mr. Chairman, that the situation that we have at present, having seen the effects on the fight on the war on drugs, and the number of surrenderies and the number of victims that we've had, the number of people who have been affected by the drug problem in the country, is a reason for us to reconsider reopening the debates on the reimposition of the death penalty. It was mentioned by the good Senator Liza Ontiveros that it is inefficient, that it denies the due process of law. With all due respect, Madam Senator, may we just raise the position that first, before the death penalty is imposed, there is a hearing that is conducted. In fact, Mr. Chairman, if you look at our rules of court, we have the rights of the accused, which guarantees protection of all their rights. But there are no rights of the victims. People who have been ravaged, people who have become victims of heinous offenses are not given the same privilege. And yet they suffer day to day with all the delays that are caused by an inefficient justice system. Yes, it says that there is no due process, but it goes through so many levels of appeals up to the point that before a decision is actually carried out. And I would like to say that in hearings conducted in court, an average case would last about 5 to 8 years. This does not include the appeals. So consider, please, the effects on the victims. Sometimes they forget that justice is still there. And on the fact that it is inefficient, may we just point out, Mr. Chairman, that when the death penalty was reimposed in 1998, when it was then reimposed in 1998, there are only 7 executions that were conducted. I'm not saying that this is too little, but all the time, our position is that it was not given an opportunity to be actually enforced properly. It was not given an opportunity to see whether the effects would be one of deterrence or not. But then again, we would like to reiterate our position, Mr. Chairman, that again, it is not a question simply of deterrence, but a question of one, whether there are compelling reasons that exist to consider the reimposition. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. I'd like to remind everybody to be brief and so that we can conduct questions. Would be next, General Marquez.
Thank you, Your Honor.
You have 2 minutes.
The Philippine National Police fully supports the enactment of a law that will reinstate the imposition of the death penalty for the commission of heinous crime based on compelling reasons as provided for under the Constitution. We are all witnesses of the long line of cases of heinous crimes where innocent lives of many people, especially children, were lost. It must be noted that from calendar year 2013 to 2016, there is an increasing trend as to the number of heinous crime incidents. The bulk of these heinous crime incidents are murder, rape, and violation of Republic Act 9165. imposition of death penalty for compelling reasons involving heinous crimes is allowed under the Constitution. During the effectivity of RA 7659, or the death penalty law, from 1994 to 2001, the Supreme Court in Bank already upheld its constitutionality. I have here a list of our reasons which I can submit to you, sir.
Please do.
Based on this, the PNP humbly submits and accepts the fact that the restoration of the death penalty alone may not be an all-out solution to address the commission of heinous crimes, since other measures such as the review and improvement of the 5 pillars of the criminal justice system, among others, must also be made. Nevertheless, the PNP believes that the restoration of the death penalty will be a big first step geared towards the prevention of the commission of heinous crime. Thank you, sir.
Senator Lacson?
Curiosity lang. Is that also the same position of the human rights officer of the PNP? Do you share the same position? Your chief superintendent,
I'm police chief superintendent Dennis Sherbo, sir.
yun din ang position mo?
Yes, sir.
We
toe the line.
for the ring position?
Yes, sir.
No, I'm not asking if you're towing the line or not. Is that your position?
Same position, sir.
Thank you.
Thank you. Pidea? Is that Asek Fajardo or?
Yes, Your Honor.
Okay, Asek Fajardo.
Again, to the members of the honorable body, good morning. First of all, PDEA interposes the objection in the enactment into law of Senate Bill numbers 4, 42, and 185, filed by the Senators Soto, Senators Lacson, and Senator Pacquiao, respectively. Let me just read some of the salient points in our position paper, sir. The menace of the illegal drug trade remains unabated, despite the concerted efforts of the agency and other law enforcement agencies to curb it. It seems that those involved in the illicit drug trade have been emboldened due to non-imposition of the death penalty on cases covered by Republic Act 9165. We believe that now is the time that is necessary for Congress to restore death penalty covered under Republic Act 9165. Further, in international relations and treaties, the principle of reciprocity states that favors, benefits, or penalties that are granted by one state to the citizens or legal entities of another should be returned in kind. While other countries impose harsh penalty to death of two Filipinos committing drug offenses thereat, we merely impose life imprisonment, as death penalty has been moratorium for the longest time. Thus, we find merit in the observation of Senator Vicente Soto when he said during the joint public hearing from Committee on Justice and Human Rights during the Senate of the Philippines as basis for his proposal for the imposition of a penalty in the Philippines, and I quote, "Since the death penalty was abolished in the country, the Chinese drug traffickers made the Philippines a haven in their illegal drug activities because they are sure not to suffer death penalty. And in fact, even behind bars, they could still operate in their drug trade. And what has been discovered during the raid of the MBI, PNP Special Action Force, and PDEA in the new Lima prison on December 15 of 2015. Thank you, Your Honor.
Thank you. BJMP?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, Your Honor. The Bureau of Jail Management and Penology supports the advancement and passage of the various bills for the reimposition of death penalty. The Jail Bureau submits to the opinions of the respective authors of said bills that death penalty can be imposed for compelling reasons involving heinous crimes. The necessity for capital punishment is greater today than it has been in the past for several reasons. The crime rate is soaring out of control. Murders are tearing our people, our cities, our country apart. Capital punishment is the lawful infliction of the death penalty, and that we are very much aware that the law is made not for the righteous, but for lawbreakers and rebels, the ungodly and sinful, the unholy and irreligious, for those who kill their fathers or mothers, for murderers. A law-abiding citizen feels no fear on the passage of any penal laws, as he in no manner will be affected by it. So the position of the BGMP, Your Honor, we support the imposition of death penalty. Thank you.
Thank you. Anybody else on the government? We will call the DSWD then.
Magandang umaga po, Mr. Chair, at sa ating pong mga senators. May I be allowed to read our position paper?
Go ahead.
Yes.
It's not going to be 30 minutes, is it? Can you do it in 2 or 3 minutes?
Hindi naman. It's very short, Your Honor.
Sorry?
This is rather short, Your Honor.
Thank you.
The Department of Social Welfare and Development, with respect for human dignity as one of its core values, expresses its strong objection on the bills which propose the reinstitutionalization of capital punishment given these arguments. Number 1, capital punishment is cruel, degrading, and inhuman. It goes against the right of individuals to life as provided for in core, universal, and regional human rights instruments, including the International Covenant on Civil and Political Rights and the Second Optional Protocol to the International Covenant on Civil and Political Rights, which aim to abolish death penalty. This right should not be disregarded, regardless of an individual's deeds, especially since empirical evidences show that criminality is determined by a number of factors, including poverty, lack of education, marginal economic opportunities, and even disability. Number 2, capital punishment is anti-poor in the context of our expensive and delayed justice system. In 2012, the Integrated Bar of the Philippines pegged a lawyer's acceptance fee at 30,000 pesos to defend a person accused in criminal case for the lowest level court. The overworked and underpaid public lawyers provide no solace. Meanwhile, the moneyed offenders pay private counsels who work on their cases full-time. This tragedy is deeply etched in our country's history and consciousness. Based on the results of the survey conducted by the Free Legal Assistance Group, or FLAG, in 2004, 70% of the 1,121 inmates on death row before the death penalty was abolished in 2006 earned less than 10,000 a month. 81% in addition worked in low-income jobs as sales, service, factory, agricultural, transport, or construction workers. The meager income of the poor, aggravated by the lack of education and marginal economic opportunities, preclude them from affording good legal representation in court. In addition, and based on Supreme Court data, FLAG also cited that 71% of the death sentences handed down by the trial courts were wrongfully imposed. In essence, this is 7 innocent lives of 10 convicted on death row. 3. The use of capital punishment does not prevent the commitment of crimes. To date, no reliable evidence can show that capital punishment has direct impact in reducing crimes, more so in preventing offenders from committing further crimes. On the other hand, studies have shown that the certainty of getting caught has constantly shown deterrence to crime. And lastly, the use of capital punishment also extinguishes the offenders' opportunities for reform and rehabilitation. It highlights the permanency of their offense instead of their capacity to change for the better through the process of restorative justice, which would enable them to connect, reconcile, and learn from their offense. Proponents of restorative justice have attested that offenders who were given the chance to face the consequences of their actions were more ready to rebuild their lives through reparations and acceptance of responsibility. We believe that instead of instituting capital punishment, priority should be given to reforming the existing criminal and justice system to ensure that offenders of whatever social class get caught and justice is delivered to all fairly. Maraming salamat po, Your Honor.
Thank you, Undersecretary Ralbe. I would kind of persist talking with Senator Lacson that despite the fact that the President's position is for the death penalty imposition, it's refreshing to see, tagalugin ko, nakikita natin sa publiko na nanonood na meron sa cabinet na kumukontra sa ating Pangulo sa kanyang posisyon. It's a healthy sign that debates are very much allowed within the cabinet. Thank you. We shall now hear, yes, Senator Soto, please.
Just a short manifestation, if you may allow, Mr. Chairman. I filed Senate Bill number 4, and it includes the reimposition of the death penalty for crimes that are included in Republic Act 7659, which I was the principal author of during that time for drug trafficking. I'm ready to amend and allow the committee to consider my bill, Senate Bill number 4, to only a limited crime, which is high-level drug trafficking / manufacturing. I'm willing to forego the other crimes. So for the record and for the committee, Senate Bill number 4 will be limited to high-level drug trafficking / manufacturing. By the way, with that, the anti-poor card will not fly because there is no drug lord na mahirap. Lahat ng drug lord mayaman. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Senator Soto. Let the record state that Senator is withdrawing all the other violations that would have merited the death penalty under resolution number 4 filed by Senator Soto, but it will only include high-level drug trafficking and manufacturing. Let the record so state. Yes, Undersecretary.
Mr. Chair and Your Honors, may I be allowed to excuse myself because I have another meeting at 1 in Quezon City.
Is somebody going to stay for the SWD?
There is our legislative liaison, so we'll be staying, Your Honor. Unless there... Yeah.
All right. Is she authorized by your department to represent her? To represent the views of the SWD?
Huling hirit na lang po, Mr. Chair and Your Honors, hanggang 11:30 po.
Yeah.
Kung pwede po.
Siguro hindi masyadong maganda lalaking kadate nyo. Hindi, biro lang mo yan. Alright, let's go on and we'll have VACC very quickly, please. Mr. Topacio,
Maraming salamat. Yes, maraming salamat po, Ginoong Tagapangulo, mga kagarang-galang na kaanib ng Committee on Justice, mga magulang at mga kapatid. Nais ko pong umpisahan ang posisyon ng VACC sa pamamagitan po ng paghayag ng mga sinabi ni Senador Lacson. At ito po ang kanyang sinabi sa kanyang pahayag. A death penalty law is appropriately necessary due to the alarming upsurge of such crimes, referring to heinous crimes such as child rape, murders with impunity, etc. According to him, the PNP's Directorate for Investigation and Detective Management documented 9,646 murder cases, 31,741 cases of robbery, and 10,298 rape cases in 2015. Senator Lacson continued that these translate to an average crime incident of a murder every 54 minutes, a robbery every 16 minutes, and a rape case every 51 minutes. At ngayon po, ang amin pong posisyon, our position has been abundantly made clear in our position paper submitted to this honorable committee, copies of which have been furnished the members hereof. Ang nais ko lamang pong asulagatin, kung inyo pong mamarapatin, punto por punto, yung mga sinasabi po ng mga anti-death penalty advocates. Maiksing-maiksi lang naman po. It's going to be as short as I am. Unang-una po, yung sinasabi pong hindi deterrent. I think the jury is still out. We, the VACC, believe that the jury is still out on it. But certain fundamental facts remain. Number one is that everyone is afraid to die. Ngayon, yung mga hindi po natatakot mamatay ng mga heinous criminals, I think the state should oblige them. Number two, hindi lamang po deterrence ang purpose po ng criminal justice system. There is rehabilitation, there is incapacitation, and I think one of the most important components is retribution. We lawyers po, itinuro po sa amin, sa aming legal philosophy, kung bakit po mayroong retribution ang lipunan sa mga gumagawa po ng mga kahindik-hindik na mga krimen. It is not only to protect the innocent and to punish the guilty, but to restore balance in society. Because all victims of heinous crimes, we have here Mr. Evangelista, whose son was kidnapped because of a robbery and was burned beyond recognition. Sino pong ama ang hindi magngingit-ngit sa nangyari kay Mr. Evangelista? And if society, if the government does not impose the necessary retribution, there will arise the feeling that there is a drastic and dramatic failure in the criminal justice system dahil hindi nabigyan ng karampatang kaparusahan yung gumawa ng krimen. The death penalty actually obviates the need for the chaos that might ensue if victims such as Mr. Evangelista might feel the need to take revenge into their own hands. That is why the death penalty is not revenge. It is retribution imposed by society as the agent of the individual, which is the smallest irreducible element of society. Now, with respect to rehabilitation, of course, we will rehabilitate who has to be rehabilitated. But recent incidents show that there are those that are beyond rehabilitation. For instance, many drug traders, although they are behind bars, have shown that they are still capable of dealing in drugs, which is why the VACC, the NBI, and other agencies have filed cases for drug trafficking against Senator De Lima and other persons. Now, whether these charges are proven true or not, we do not know. But the fact remains that these pushers have admitted before a congressional inquiry that they still deal in drugs. Therefore, the rehabilitative element is not accomplished. Number three, it is cruel and inhuman, they say. But Article 3, Section 19 already states within itself that the death penalty is not cruel and inhuman. In fact, to say otherwise would be to question the wisdom of the framers of our Constitution, Mr. Chairman. In their collective sagacity, they have left it to future legislatures to reimpose the death penalty whenever circumstances permit. And it is the position of the VACC that the circumstances now permit the reimposition of the death penalty. Grandes males, grandes remedios, as they say, Mr. Chairman. Okay, they say that it is anti-poor. We submit that the proportion of poor people behind bars is due to the fact that there are more poor people in this country. I cannot believe that the poor are underrepresented when it comes to court. The PAO, I have worked with them, the Public Attorney's Office. They are composed of dedicated, committed, and competent lawyers. Wala pong sawa yan na nagdidepensa. There is FLAG, whose representative is here. I used to be a member of that. It was founded by the late Doy Laurel, the first legal aid society in this country, and they're still active. There are other legal clinics, Ateneos, and Beda, UE, UP, who defend the poor without pay. I myself, modesty aside, I have some pro bono cases where I defend poor litigants without pay. Now, it is said that the death penalty costs more. We do not know. But whether it is true or not, whether it costs more in pesos and centavos, as I've said, there is the intangible cost to society that if a person who takes a life or who commits a crime that destroys and takes the lives of others are not proportionately punished, then there is the perception that the criminal justice system is breaking down and that it does not work and people might take the law into their own hands. I think that costs more than just equating it with pesos and centavos. And lastly, Mr. Chairman, they say that it violates due process. Prosecutor Padulyon has already outlined the reasons why there are so many safeguards. Of course, no one can guarantee 100% foolproof legal system wherein no mistakes are made. That is why there is another layer to the due process, which is executive clemency, wherein the president has the power to review the judgment of the court, and if he thinks it unduly harsh, commute, pardon, parole, or do any other thing which would lessen the impact of in the remote possibility that the justice system has made an erroneous judgment. Ito po ang aming stand. And in closing, Mr. Chairman, we just want to quote the last paragraph of the letter written by our chairman, Mr. Dante Jimenez, where he said, "Let us restore the death penalty law and bring back the faith of the public, especially the victims, in the ability of the criminal justice system to preserve peace and order in our society." Some 16 million Filipinos gave their mandate to President Rodrigo Roa Duterte when he promised to restore the death penalty. That is more than sufficient proof of the public sentiment about what it wants this administration to do for them. This administration includes the Senate and the House of Representatives. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Your honors.
Thank you. Can we just proceed and finish all the complications? Sorry? All right. Just a very short one, please.
Yes. Attorney Topacio here,
Yes, Your Honor.
while not in very express terms, just called me a drug trafficker. I want him to take that back.
Your Honor, with all due respect, I did no such thing. In fact, the transcript of the records will bear me out when I say that whether those charges may be proven or not, we do not know. These are allegations, Your Honor.
Yes, but of all people, why single out only Senator Laila de Lima? I'm not a drug trafficker. Bakit hindi mo pangalanan yung mga tunay na drug trafficker?
Your Honor,
Ako lang ang kinakasuhan niyo.
if Your Honor, please.
Excuse me. Session is suspended.
It's too much.
Session is resumed. We will continue with that later on. In the meantime, the chair wishes to finish all the resource persons. We shall now have the Bureau of Correctionals. Make it brief, please.
Benjamin De,
The DJMP is please go ahead.
Benjamin De Los Santos, Your Honor, for Bucor. I agree with the proposition that discussions about death penalty has long been done. It's just like the sun and moon when we talk about classical and positivist jury. But being with the Bureau of Corrections, I would rather not delve on the argument for or against it, but let me just state for the record statistics that are called enough for consideration of the Your Honor. Bucor statistics show that before the abolition of the death penalty, we had 189 inmates convicted for the commission of heinous crimes. After such abolition, a staggering 6,204 were sentenced for such heinous crimes. This is an astonishing 3,280% increase of persons convicted for heinous crimes.
Kindly restate the second figure again.
3,280.
3,000.
3,000